listening to my aimless conversation with Jeff Cosetta, and my guest today is Nicole Cleary, aka Nick, aka Nikki. And this interview is the first time that Nikki and I have spoken to each other in over 15 years. Nikki goes back to discuss how we met each other working at a supermarket and how she hated when I'd put her on the express line, then going to college and being introduced to her future husband through a mutual friend, and how they were friends first and he escaped the friend zone. Nikki is also a co-owner of Divine Yoga located in Fall River, Massachusetts, and we discuss the different classes that they offer, how she got introduced to yoga, overcoming apprehension about possibly taking a yoga class, and how COVID has affected the business. We then wrap up the interview by talking about her family life and the activities that her children do to keep her busy. Overall, this was a great interview with an old friend that I haven't spoken to in such a long time, and I really hope you enjoy it. And if you could be so kind, please share, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Do you want to be a guest on the show? Follow me and DM me on Twitter and Instagram at jfree82. All right, let's wrap up this intro and have an aimless conversation with my friend, Nicole Cleary. Do you prefer to go by Nicole? Do you prefer to go by Nikki? Do you prefer to go by Nick? What is the name that you would like to go by first and foremost?
It sounds like an easy question, right? But it's actually not so easy. So I believe when we met back a million years ago, I was probably Nikki, right?
You were Nikki.
But I was never Nikki to my family.
Okay.
So at home I was always Nicole, or to my dad I was Nick. But to my friends, I was just always Nikki. And then kind of growing up, at school, I was always Nicole too. So it was situational. And then as I got a little bit older, entering the corporate world, I was always Nicole. Now I never know who to introduce myself as. So at the yoga studio, I'm both.
Okay.
Depends who you ask. So really, you can call me Nikki. We go way back.
We do go way back. And it looks like,
oh no, did you freeze?
Yeah, it looks like okay, we're back. We go way back, and now we're back. So
now we're back.
So you're on location right now. So I'm gonna call you Nikki, just as long as you're okay with that. So now I'm getting the whole thing that my internet, I just rebooted my router to make sure we didn't have any internet issues. But yes. I think just going back forth, this is gonna be it, nothing's easy. This is going to be a challenge. We had a couple of misconnections as far as the first time we wanted to do this interview, but now we're back. We're back. Hopefully if the internet lags or whatever, the people listening to the audio won't give a damn, because it's going to be audio, but people watching the Facebook video, or the YouTube video rather, it'll be a whole different scenario for them. But yeah, I'm going to call you Nikki for now. And yes, we do go back. I don't take it personally when you say a million years back, because I was actually thinking about this. You're a few years younger than me, and it's just so weird for me to be like here now and still think of you as this 17-year-old girl, but now you're like this woman with a family and a business, and you just said corporate world, and it makes me feel ancient. It makes me feel super ancient, but it's like, it's so good just to see you, to catch up with you, because we haven't probably spoken to each other face to face. I mean, we were texting a little bit, but we haven't spoken, I don't know, 2005, 2006. Has it been like that long? Or maybe.
Yeah.
So it's been like 15 years, which is crazy. Like how, but it's fun how like we can just kind of pick back up and go along,
Absolutely.
And just pick right back up. And it's interesting because at least with social media, like we're friends, but we're not friends in the sense that we talk every day, but we know with what is going on within each other's lives, so to speak. And the fact that I can see all the stuff you're doing, which I just happened to, the reason we got you on the podcast is you happen to put like a call to action, like, hey, I need to listen to some new podcasts. And I said, hey, I have a podcast. And then it kind of
You
like,
said shameless plug.
shameless plug. I got to plug my stuff. But you started listening to it, and apparently you liked what you heard. And I said, hey, if you ever want to be on, so because it'd be great to catch up, and we get to plug your business and whatnot and promote that a little bit, which is always cool. And we'll
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit toward the end or toward the middle of the podcast. But I want to go back to what you're saying. You're saying your dad always called you Nick.
Yes.
So I forgive me, I don't remember. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah. So I have an older brother and a younger brother. So
Okay,
I'm the only girl, middle
so
child.
do you think your father called you Nick just on purpose because he wanted three boys?
I don't think so.
Or is this
I'll have
kind of
to
like,
ask him.
yeah, like, you're a middle child, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, do you ever feel like did you ever have that middle child syndrome where you just crave all that attention?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything
My,
growing up that you just
I
did?
mean, my older brother was like the by the books oldest kid, like followed the rules, got all the good grades, like didn't test curfew, like didn't set pave anything for me. So I tested all the limits. I was always late for curfew.
You were
I was
breaking all the
always
rules.
Yeah, yeah. And then my younger brother, I mean, I set the way for him. Like he didn't even have a curfew.
So
um
you set the tone,
yeah.
and I guess that's the other question too. That's always interesting to me with like the middle child or even the oldest versus the youngest. Do you ever feel like your younger brother got away with a lot more than you or
One
your older
yeah,
brother?
100%. I mean, I think that after me they were just tired. Like,
Do
well, I mean, she made it. She was fine, so Michael be great.
so basically you just wore them out. They just gave up. Wave that
Yes,
white flag for your little brother just to do whatever he wants.
absolutely.
I love that. I love that. It's like, to me, it reminds me of there are those commercials. I forgot what company it's for, but it shows like the first child where they're treating the kid with like baby gloves. They have them like wrapped up in bubble wrap, and then it shows your versus your second child, and the mother's at the mechanic, and you have this dirty mechanic, and she just hands the kid to the mechanic to hold, and it's just like, yeah, we figured it all out. We already kid gloves with one, and the other one it's just like, nah,
Yep.
no,
Hmm.
not at all.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we I got to meet you. So I don't know if I met rule breaker Nikki, like 16, 17-year-old rule breaker Nikki, when we worked together, because I never really, like, I, for lack of a better term, we worked at a supermarket together. We don't have to say the name. I don't know if you're comfortable with that, but
Either
uh,
way.
yeah, we worked. Okay, fine. We worked at Shaw's way back in the day, in the early aughts, was it the 2000s, whatever they call that.
Yeah. Uh,
So
yeah.
I was a front end whatever they call it, supervisor. I was like
Yeah.
telling people to go on which register and getting people to bag and telling people
You
which
were
to
the
go.
boss.
Well, yeah, I was middle management, if you will, because we all report to somebody, right? Yeah, so it was interesting because, yeah, you came in like I was a few years older than you. Nothing like, not like an extreme age gap, but I think I'm like 3 to 4 years older than you, because I like 2000, 2001, 2002, I was 18 to 20, you know what I mean? So it's,
Yep.
it was you were like 16, 17 at the time. So it was a weird kind of dynamic, because I remember it like very vividly, you and some of the other females there. They're just all these like, it's weird when you think about it from an age perspective, because I would never think of it from like a romantic standpoint, but I'd always be like, oh my god, these girls are all like very, very pretty, they're so sweet. But I always felt like big brother to all of you, you know what I mean?
Yep.
With the exception of one, and I won't call her out because I don't know if she's going to listen to this, but I don't know if you're still
I
friends with her.
I probably know who you're talking about.
Okay,
Um
call her out.
I is it Erin?
Oh, I did love Erin. I loved Erin. But no, I was thinking of Michelle. Michelle,
Yeah.
I
Oh my gosh.
loved
Yes.
Michelle. Now, do you do
Go.
you uh, do you keep in contact with any of these girls? Are you like still friends? Or are you more like Facebook friends, or like
Yeah,
life
mostly
does it
Facebook friends.
grows
Yeah.
apart and stuff like that?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm trying to think if there's anyone. No, I think just a lot of it is kind of like how you and I are, I kind of know what everyone's up to, but
It's the good and the bad of social media, right?
yeah,
Like, it's just one of those things where you don't have to be in day-to-day contact with people, because you can kind of see what they're doing, and you
right.
kind of see what their lives are like, because everybody, for the most part, depending on how private of a person you are, but everybody's posting all their business on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And
Yep.
oh, this is a question I had. This is kind of just interesting, random. So we're gonna go through some social media stuff. Are you on that TikTok trend? Like,
No, no.
okay, I
So my husband is a data guy. He's an IT director, and he's like, no, you can't do TikTok. Okay. He's
I
data police.
I appreciate that, but no, I just, it's one of those weird things because I'm on there just for promotion for a bunch of stuff and to follow some of my friends, and I just watch some of these like trends and dances, and I'm just like, good thing we didn't have this when we were younger because we probably have all of our business and stuff out there,
Oh my gosh.
which is totally crazy. So and it's interesting because you mentioned your husband, and I want to go because again, when did it go from 17-year-old Nikki to married Nikki? I want to kind of get some of the middle stuff there, because when I met you, you were, I believe, high school. So let's talk about, moving on from high school to college. What's or at least after your post high school career, what was that all
Yeah.
about? What was that like?
Yeah, so I went off to Westfield State College, so kind of far enough to get away, but close enough to come home. I had a few pretty serious boyfriends in between, 2 to 3 years, and then I don't know, just things didn't really click. I spent a few years single, and then I think I was around 25 when I met well, we were friends, so I met my husband through a friend at a bar. Do people do that anymore? Like meet at a bar?
not 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 recently, but
Right. Yeah. So we met actually at the Bullpen in New Bedford. So super classy, high end bar, dive bar. And we just kind of flirted for years. And then I always kind of knew that if I ever dated him, he's the guy you marry. He's not the guy you date. So I was always kind of like, no, I'm not gonna date him yet because then it's like it's the end. You marry him, right? So finally I was like, all right, I think it's time. So we ended up dating, and I was right. He's the kind of guy you marry. So I actually married when we were 27.
I think that's a good
20,
age because I want
26.
to. Okay, still a good age, but here's that's I love the way you kind of worded that, and if I can kind of delve into that a little bit more, you said you had a couple serious boyfriends, you were single for a while. I think that's good. Not that I want to get into the whole cliche like when you're in college and whatnot, you need to experiment, but
Mhm.
I really think you really kind of figure out who you are in your early 20s, your mid 20s, and then it gets to a point that, and that's kind of like my mo, like I'm still single, and when people are like, oh, I'm going to meet you with somebody, like what's your age range, all this other stuff, I said I want them, I'm in my late 30s, so even now it's like, okay, probably early 30s, like what would probably be the youngest, maybe late 20s, but I feel like you need to be out of college and you need to kind of experience life. And I don't want to say be like a grown up, because I like how you mentioned that before, you moved away far enough so you could kind of be self-dependent, self-reliant, but at the same time, if something did hit the fan, you could, you're not that far that it's not a huge deal to come back home or get some help or whatever the
Yep.
case may be. So I think that's very smart in the fact that, you kind of say like, I met him, I liked him, we flirted, but I know I wasn't emotionally there yet. I know I wasn't ready like to not necessarily finality, be like, okay, my love life or my dating life is over, which it is, but I still think you need to go on dates with your husband. We'll pause that for later. But I know I love that because it's like, okay, I want to be ready when I know like this guy is the one. I want to make sure that I can give him everything that I need to give him, emotionally, spiritually, physically, everything, and I want to be at that point. I think that's very, very mature, which that's why it kind of like strikes me, because you say that you got away with a bunch of stuff and you were like kind of the rule breaker, but you've always struck me like I've never seen you even back like in your, late teens. Like I never like took you as somebody that was immature. So maybe I was just totally naive and had blinders on. I don't know. But I'm glad that you took that maturity and that decision, and you found a guy that's great, because now I also want to talk about maybe a taboo subject called the friend zone. Let's talk about the friend zone for a minute. Like, so I always hear that it's like, it's impossible for a man and a woman to be friends without, somebody wanting more. Typically it's on the guy's side, but the fact that you were able to keep, a friendship with him, do you think like you guys both like were attracted to each other and knew it was going to happen, or was it just kind of like it's going to happen, if it happens, it's going to happen when it happens and it's right for both of us? Or was it kind of like, okay, this is, I mean, I kind of get it from your perspective, because you said, yeah, like, you said, if I'm going to marry him, if this is the guy that you
Yeah.
marry, from his perspective, was it just kind of like, oh, she's a friend, I'm attracted to her, I like her, nothing's ever going to happen? Or was it, you think he was holding out hope too?
I think he was holding out hope. He's going to listen to this. He'll have to let me know. But I think what helped us is we were friends through a friend. So we would see each other at parties or at the bar, or that particular friend used to have game night a lot. So it was always kind of like, we didn't hang out separately. It was always just with Alicia. And so, but it was always something where he'd be like, "Oh, so is Nikki going?" And I'd be like, "Hey, so is Pat going?" So it was something, we were always just kind of
You were always
heavy
in each other's
flirtation.
orbit.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome. And first of all, shout out Alicia for the hookup.
Yes.
And I love that too, because I'm of the same belief, in the sense that if you're looking for somebody to, I don't want to say complete you, but somebody that's gonna like get you or understand you, like nobody understands you better than your closest friends, right? So it's like, if
Hmm.
they have somebody in mind for you, it's almost like, I think you two would be like cool together, because I know your personality, I know their personality, and I think you guys would mesh really well. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because then if it doesn't work out, then it's like, hey, now we got to pick and choose when we visit this friend. But again, I think it gets to a certain age with a maturity level where you can handle that.
Yeah.
um but I think that's awesome. And then shout out game night. What type of games did you guys used to play? Because now I'm interested.
So
Is it
this will
like
date us. I believe, what was it, Rock Band?
Rock Bands? All
Yep,
right.
Rock Band, and then Boulder Dash. Is that?
Boulder Dash sounds familiar. I've never played that, but I
Yeah,
have to say, Rock Band. What was your instrument of choice?
the guitar. Yeah, the guitar.
Guitar.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
okay. So quick story. So I don't know if you remember Erin Sullivan that we used to work.
Yes.
I don't know if she.
Yep.
So I mean, with COVID and whatnot, it's been kind of tough, but I've been friends with her for like years, and through her, I met her husband Adam, and then his brother Paul, and we all became really, really close friends. I remember one night they had I believe it was either a Memorial Day, a Labor Day, or a 4th of July. I mean, it goes back years, but they had like a party at their place. And this is when I was younger and I could do this, but we all got pretty inebriated, and we ended up playing Beatles Rock Band until like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was just we got to the point where Aaron was just like, "Screw this, I'm going to bed." So Adam took the microphone and duct taped it to his undershirt, and he was playing guitar and singing while Paul was on drums and I was on bass, and it was just like
Talent.
the most fun time. And it's just like, it's weird how some of those memories, as trite as they may seem,
Hmm.
it's like, it's not going to be like the nights where you're like, oh man, I went out and I like partied so hard. It's like more of like the intimate, like fun moments that like
Yes.
stick with you and whatnot. So I just love the fact that you talked about like game night, and then you and Pat were like kind of like super into each other, and just so ladies and gentlemen, specifically gentlemen that are listening to this, it is possible to escape the friend zone. You just have to have the wherewithal. It's just, both parties have to be interested. If she's just treating you like a friend, and essentially isn't flirting with you, isn't interested with you in you, then that's a friend. But if she's flirting and giving you some side eye, then it's possible that things could happen in the future. So that's not just for me, that's from Nikki as well.
There you go.
She's putting that in. But okay,
Might be the
so
girl you marry.
there you go. And that's the thing. It's like, it's finding that person of quality too. Not that, you know, the very what's the word? Surface things, the aesthetic, okay, yeah, she's pretty, he's cute, all that stuff. Oh, he's got a good job, he'll take care. All that stuff is certainly important. But I also think, to your point, when you said, like, you knew him, you were friends with him, you knew his character, you knew his
Hmm.
personality, you knew how he would treat you.
Yes.
And that's, you can see yourself building a life together with somebody. And I think that's quite awesome. And you did build a life. You have one or two kids. You
Two.
have two. All right. Boy and a
Yes.
girl, or two
One of
boys.
each. Yeah.
Oh, so you're
Yep.
pretty, so you're set. You're set.
We're set. We're done.
I love it. I love it. That's
Yes.
fantastic. But that's awesome. So you went from this, like, cute little high school girl to like this, beautiful, gorgeous suburban mom type of person with a wonderful family. I'm like super happy for you. That's so awesome.
Thank
Uh
you.
you're very welcome. That's great. Like I said, this is why I love doing this and catching up with like old friends that I haven't like spoke to in a while,
Yeah.
because you're still like so, I don't know, what's the word I want? Uh, is the word I want illuminating? You're just like, you're shine. No, you just have like this internal light that's still like shining so bright, and it's so good to see that. And I just love seeing that in your face and your smile, in your eyes. You just look like you're very content and happy with life, and you're living it to the fullest. And it's so awesome to see that. I just love, and I want to make to point out your nails too. People on the audio podcast can't hear that, but you have so many different colors. I see
Yeah.
some green, some purple, some blue. You're
Yes.
rocking that. You're
Hmm.
rocking that. I love that. I love that. I wanna kind of segue now. Let's talk about more of the personal stuff. We want to talk about your business. We want to talk about getting into the health and fitness
Hmm.
area. Because I think it's always existed, but I think within especially with COVID and lockdown, or the pandemic and everybody staying at home, I think we've seen like a greater influx of that. And I think, within the age of social media, I think everybody's trying to be like a health guru or an influencer or whatnot. And a lot of that is kind of shallow. It's more like for like show, like, look at what I'm doing. Look at,
Hmm.
look at me in my workout clothes. I just finished off of I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I don't know if you see that, but I'm doing it. I'm not trying to be like an influencer. I'm trying to do it as accountability. I go on Instagram every workout and I put videos ad nauseum. It probably pisses people off, and I get
No,
it.
I like it. I think it's
It's
inspiring.
yeah. Well, I'm not trying to
Mhm.
necessarily inspire. If it does that, great. But it's also more like accountability for me.
Right.
Like, I don't want to just go in there and half-ass something. Not that I had a conversation, my last podcast with my buddy Scott, and we were talking about some things, and some of the the fallacies as far as working out. Like, you need to like be drenched in sweat to have a good workout, which is not the case. You need to,
Right.
so just things like that, some of the urban legends or whatnot. But I want to talk more about you, because you have your own business. You're a co-owner, and
Yes.
let's talk about that first. So what's the name of your business?
Yeah. So our legal entity, for lack of better words, we're Zen Revolution. So we are a yoga-based business where we want to bring just wellness and community, um, just to as many people as we can, right? So, and really the idea behind that is about finding your zen. So it doesn't have to be yoga. Your zen could be lifting at the gym, or my business partner Pam, she is into rowing, and she does. It's so cool to watch that, but it's just about finding things that you like. So within that, Pam and I go way back, with a history of yoga. So that we had the opportunity to buy a yoga studio back 2 years ago, and that was, a big step for us. So we actually had two studios to start with, one in Dartmouth and one in Fall River, and COVID happened. So we did have to close the Dartmouth studio. It was something that we, it, I'm not sad about it. It was a smart decision. I miss the community, but in order for us to survive this, it was a smart decision. The space with the restrictions wouldn't have made sense. We would have fit 2 people in there plus an instructor. So it was a smart business decision, which allowed us to focus on staying open and continuing to provide yoga to so many people who need it right now.
Well, that's awesome. And we were kind of talking on offline
Mhm.
on Instagram. We were DMing each other, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to go check that out. I want to go. I have a little experience. Again, I'm not familiar with the terms, but I know there was I told you a friend of mine actually used to do a gentle yoga class.
Yep.
So I did that for close to like a year, and I really I got to a point like this is probably I want to say a year and a half before COVID. I think there was a lot. I was doing a lot of physical activity. I was doing the gym 4 to 5 times a week. I was doing karate. I do Kempo karate like 3 times a week, and then I was doing, an hour and a half of yoga every week, and it was just like I felt so good. Then COVID hit, and I decided to do some things such as like podcasting and whatnot that kind of like took away my time from going to karate. So I teach karate once a week now, and I go to the Saturday morning classes. And then I still go to the gym now that I've been vaccinated. And I'm not saying you have to or not. We don't do like political stuff on here, just so you know. Like everybody's going to make their own choice. Everybody should be educated. From what my doctor advised me is I got vaccinated, and that's cool. Now I was able to go back to the gym now that I'm vaxxed. So I'm looking to eventually get back into yoga, knowing that you have a studio that's pretty
Yeah.
damn close to me because I'm in Somerset. And believe it or not, COVID hit. I think it was called Blend, which was right near me.
Mhm.
And it was one of those things like during COVID, I'm like, oh, that's literally about 2.5 minutes from my apartment. And I was like, I could totally walk there and go to yoga and walk back. And it's like, unfortunately they closed, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's tough. And it's kind of like a weird situation to be in because, during this time of uncertainty and whether it's people, working from home or even like, quarantining, whatever the case may be, that the whole mental aspect of it, of like that yoga can kind of help alleviate like that was the other big thing for me when I was doing that gentle yoga, like the clarity and whatnot you get from doing that. And again, not to get all woo woo and whatever, but like it's definitely like you're there in the moment. You're not thinking about like things you got going on at home. You're not thinking
Right.
about anything else. You're there in the moment. And again, not to sound too like philosophical, but that's something I love. That's why I love meditation. I love, yoga. That's why I want to get back into it. So knowing that you have a studio so close, I think is great. It's just going to have to be something I'm going to have to do.
You just gotta do
So
it. I think that the toughest part is walking through the door, right?
right.
So the more you think about it and internalize it, and I hear this from so many people who are like, I want to try yoga, but I don't know how to do it. And it's like, well, you're not going to know how to do it until you walk through that door. And everyone is like, well, try a few videos at home first. And really getting to a class and having that one-on-one instruction where you have somebody in front of you who can tell you, maybe move your hands a little bit closer, or I watch the entire class, and if I notice form is a little bit off, I'll instruct the whole class. We'll break it down, right? So I'm not just pinpointing like, hey Jeff, like you're doing that wrong. Let's break
Oh,
down
you'd be
chaturanga.
saying that a lot, by the way, just
No,
FYI.
but it's you instruct the whole class because really it's everyone could use it. I've taken 1,000 yoga classes myself. I'm a teacher. I still take beginner classes because I always like to go back to breaking it down, correcting my form, going back to the basics. So I would never just pick you out. I would have everyone in the class drop to their knees, suck in their core, stack their arms in one straight line, all of those things, because even if you've done it 1,000 times, you're probably you could adjust something, right? We all can.
Well, I think that plus it's like even if you do something ad nauseum 1,000 times, you also get lackadaisical, and sometimes what you do,
Right.
like not that you take shortcuts, but it's like one of those things like if you are doing something wrong and nobody, or you don't happen to notice it, or nobody catches it, and you do that 1,000 times, well, you're doing it wrong 1,000 times too.
Exactly.
And that's I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna have to check out a class. I got to check that out. I actually have a friend. She used to work with me at my current job. She's no longer with the company. And what had happened was she was an avid runner. She used to love track and field. She used to do that. That was like,
Mhm.
she'd go run like 15 miles like it's nobody's business. I forget what type of dog she had, but she had a pretty large dog who jumped up on her and she hyperextended her knee, and
Oh
she needed knee
no.
surgery. So she couldn't really run anymore. And she discovered yoga, and she ended up leaving the company because she fell in love with it so much. She got certified as a teacher, and like, I don't know if she opened her own studio or if she joined a studio, but that's like her new career path. And I
That's
love that.
awesome.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
like, it's again, not to get too, out there, but it's like, finding your calling, or finding something that, speaks to you and that you enjoy doing, but also is a way to make a living, is like one of the biggest things
Yeah.
possible, or were the best things possible. I just, because I think I might have told you too. I don't know if I did, and I'm retelling this story, please stop me. But I think one of the other things I want to do, and I might actually pick your brain about it, is when I get to a certain point physically. I mean, I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 next year, but I think when I get to a decent place physically, I would love to learn, um not necessarily yoga, but I'd like to learn Tai Chi. That's kind of
Hmm.
like my thing, because I do the karate side. It's a martial arts, but to me, I think something that would be rewarding and fulfilling is I could still do like a 9 to 5, but if I get, certified in teaching or doing something there, then I can, like, not, I don't want to say give back, but like go to like these retirement homes and whatnot, and with some of the older folks, and like, you know what I mean, help them
Yep.
exercise and do something, because I think that the capability to look inward and like give back, but at the same time do something that's both physically and mentally rewarding, with like, I feel like some of the yogas and the meditations
Hmm.
and, some of the martial arts do. I think that's huge. And I just want to get your opinion on that from your end. I mean, granted, as an instructor, it's probably a little different because you have to watch everybody's form, but even when you're doing yoga yourself, are you just kind of like feeling like one with your body? And again, not to get too high level and weird
Yeah.
about it, but like, I always feel like that's something, like, I just want to get your opinion on it because you're the expert, not me.
Well, so I think we all have our days, right? So there are days where I am so in my head and I'll walk into a class and I walk in thinking, I want a sweaty class. I want to move. I want to flow. And then the instructor has a complete, they're not mind readers, but all of a sudden it's a class that, they've done all the moves that I hate, which are probably the moves that I need to do the most. But now my practice is ego driven and now I'm sort of spiraling. So there are those days. Um, but then there are other days where you walk into class and it's literally there's nothing else. It's nothing outside of the class. It's you and your breath and your movement. And for me, I have a hard time sitting and meditating. It's hard. Um, but for me, movement is a form of meditation. And I really take that and most of the time my yoga practice is not a workout. It's more for my mind than it is for my body, even though, my studio, it's a heated studio. So you're sweating and you're moving. It's just it's the best.
I love that. So
Yeah.
is it really like a hot yoga? Or would that be how it's like termed? That's the terminology, right? A hot
Yeah.
yoga class.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, when I go in there, I got to make sure that I wear layers. So I'll wear my Under Armour. I'll wear all that fun stuff, that moisture wicking technology, so I'm not dying in there.
We do offer a few classes that are not heated. They're room temperature. So room temp right now is a little bit warmer with
Right,
the
being the
summer weather. So you'll still sweat a little bit, but we offer both.
room temperature and hot yoga. But again, yeah, being it, though this summer's been kind of weird. Like, I know you're saying like the room temperature is
Mhm.
like, I think almost like Mother Nature knows like COVID's happening right now. So it's like we're not going to have like these amazing, like crazy, like stretches of super warm weather. You want to go out, get to the beach or be outside. It's going to be like, no, we're going to rain a lot and just be like the 70 degrees, which, hey, I mean, that's cool. But, I feel like it really hasn't hit summer yet. We've had like a couple of good days and we're like mid-August almost. And
Yeah,
where's summer? Unless we're going to have, even though I didn't name it, the what's the term? Indian summer, where it's,
I think
yeah,
so.
like September
Yeah.
is like, which, hey, I'll take.
We've had some
Yeah.
warm mid-October days. So
So regardless, depending on when I go to your studio, and I'll, like I said, offline, I'm gonna hit you up. I mean, we're gonna plug all your stuff in the show notes and toward the end of the show for follows and whatnot. But yeah, I definitely want to go there. So with your current studio, how many instructors do you have? I mean, obviously you're an instructor.
yes. So I believe
Rough estimate. You don't have
10,
to count. I
10,
know you.
around 10. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that
And
so
you
that's
you
awesome.
mentioned Blend. We actually have a few instructors who had taught at Blend in the past. So a big thing with the yoga community around here is we all sort of know each other, and a lot of instructors teach at multiple studios. Um, when COVID actually began, we Pam, my business partner, set up a few Zoom calls with all of the local owners. And we all kind of brainstormed ways to make it through. And this is at the very beginning, what ways are people going virtual or cutting costs? How are you saving money while on, shut down because of COVID? So it was really cool to connect with owners who are going through the same thing, and in not a competitive way, right? Not a way where we're like, no, I need to survive. So, there was none of that cutthroat. It was, let's all kind of survive together and bring yoga to the community.
Well, isn't that kind of like cool? Like, I don't know if you could see that, like, and maybe it's just me being naive to this too, but with like any other type of business, you're like, oh, you're having trouble, but I'm keeping my head afloat. Good. I want you to fail because that'll help me succeed. Where I think where it's a practice such as yoga, something that, again, as I mentioned, is not just like physically rewarding, but also mentally rewarding. And it is that
Mhm.
community. It's almost like we need to raise each other up, which I think is, a perfect, like, a perfect kind of MO for, like, not just for the yoga community, but for the world. You hear that all the
Yeah.
time. Like, and again, not to get too, you know,
Woo woo.
yeah, thank you. I don't like using the same terminology all the time. And then my brain's trying to work. And it's, we're actually recording this early in the morning because I'm on vacation. You're on location. I won't say you're on vacation because you're doing all your work, but you're on location as well. But you're hustling, you're doing your business owner stuff, which I
Mhm.
love to see. But I think, yeah, that's just a great, like, kind of example for the world. Like, you hear that, you hear even in like among females, like, not to, like, that I want to like make it like a sexist thing, but all like, I'm not going to put you down. We should be lifting each other up. We should be, don't be.
Yeah.
And I think that, but I don't think that just resonates with females. I think that's other people. Like, don't step on somebody. Don't, like, for lack of a better term, bully. Don't pick on somebody. Don't take advantage of somebody just to make yourself seem better. Because when you raise, they say that, what's the term, like, you are the summation of the five closest people to you, where it's like, if everybody's like, being a jerk, that's kind of like your personality too, versus like,
Mhm.
if you're around people that want to help other people, you're more apt to help other people, and then you enrich the lives of others by, just being you
Yeah.
and being like the person you are and helping other people, who in turn, pay it forward, if you will. And I just love seeing all that. I think that's what we need to show more in the world right now, especially with the whole, there's divides everywhere. I'm not even saying
Yeah.
political, I'm saying with everything. And it's just like, empathy and perspective can do a whole lot to drive everybody forward, which I think is like still somewhat lost, but I think we're starting to see an uptick on that, which I'm really happy to be. So anyway, long story short, I'm
Yes.
rambling now. Um, yeah, I just definitely want to check out your studio. What do you think? Where I've done a little bit of the gentle yoga, would you still suggest me for the beginner class?
Yeah, so and something I've been talking about with Pam is starting a beginner series. So I think you know, again, the hardest part is stepping into a class. So I think you could essentially take most of our classes, and walk in without any prior knowledge. All of our instructors are incredible at what they do and offer variations. So you could take the pose, excuse me, to any level you want, right? And typically we start at the beginning. And if you're a seasoned yogi, you know where to go and you know what to do to amplify your practice. So those people are going to do what they do. The instructor is going to lead you through and give you options. So most of our classes, I would say 90%, you could walk into without prior knowledge, even the heated classes. So heated scares a lot of people, but don't let it. You can always come down into child's pose and take a few breaths. And sometimes that's harder than powering through, right? Sometimes telling yourself it's okay to come into child's pose. No one else is really watching you, right? But we're so in our heads where we're like, they're going to see me in child's pose and they're all going to judge me. And no, like take the child's pose, take a couple breaths, find that center, and then just meet us when you're ready. And then only take it as far as you can. So we talk a lot about finding your edge. So if all of a sudden your heart rate starts speeding up, your breath becomes shallow and you're not moving to breath and your mind is all over the place, you've probably gone too far past your edge, right? So you want to back off a little bit. This is your practice. It's going to differ from everybody around you. It's going to differ from day to day. I talked about that earlier. So some days I walk in there and I'm all in my head, and then some days I have a full spiritual connection. It's going to differ every single day. Your lefts and your rights are going to differ. You know, there are so many variables and factors, and you just have to go in with no expectations, right? I rambled.
Yeah, no. If I could, but no. I think that was beautifully worded, because I agree with you to a certain thing you said a little earlier. Is I think we all get in our own heads,
Mhm.
as far as we always think that we're watching us. Like that's my concern, because like, for example, I don't know within your studio, if you just rough estimate male to female equivalents, like I'm assuming you have a lot more female clientele than you do for male, right? So like, what would you say that breakdown percentage is?
We do have a good group of men that come in.
Okay, perfect.
I would say that it's definitely higher toward female ratio. But I'd say there are 1 to 2 males per class, sometimes even more. So, and we do
Okay.
have a few male instructors that have rotated in and out too. So I think that helps kind
Okay.
of, yeah.
So, but I was going to say, from a 1 to 2 male perspective, so 1 to 2 male, what's a typical class size? How many people
Um,
roughly?
it's tough to say with COVID right now.
Right. Well, just but let's say
But
prior to COVID.
yeah. I mean, I'd say maybe 10% male overall.
Okay. So like, if there's
Yeah.
like, okay, so no, and the only reason I asked that, I didn't mean to grill you too hard on that, but
Yeah.
my concern would be, and it's not that I'm saying like male shit, because I think a couple things. One, I think that still stereotypically guys are like, yoga, that's a girl's thing,
Hmm.
which I totally believe the exact opposite. There's actually a professional wrestler, which I'm sure you probably heard of, called Diamond Dallas Page, who has DDP yoga, which is like, he did it for like yoga for
Yeah.
regular guys. And it's like an introductory thing, and to get the guy, and you've seen I'm sure I don't know if you've seen the videos, but he puts tons of inspirational videos with the guys that dropped like 300 pounds
Hmm.
and all this stuff, and they morbidly obese, and then they're in shape, and they've been doing it for like 2 years, and whatever, and you can say what you want about it. A lot of it is going to be diet and that mentality too, but the mindset, I think, is super important. But I also think, to go back to what we were talking about previously about having a perception, that's something that I'm trying to be cognizant of in the gym, and cognizant of with like yoga, because I have a friend of mine, and I mentioned this on an earlier podcast, who was at the gym, and the only free treadmill was near this really attractive female, and he's like, I don't want her to think that I'm creeping on her. And I told him, I said, dude, she's probably, and then I don't mean to sound rude to you, but she's probably not even noticing you, because she's worried about doing her own thing. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's kind of like the same thing in yoga. It's like, guys don't want to come off as creepers, because they're going to have all these gorgeous women and and yoga clothes and sports bras and stuff. And it's like, I don't want to be staring at her butt, with her yoga pants. And I'm like, I think, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some creepers that do show up, but at the same time, it's like, if you're there for the right reason, you're not going to even be, I mean, you could not saying you're not going to notice, because like I'm a guy, of course you're going to notice like attractive females, but that's not, you're not there to leer, you're not there to stare, you're not there to like, you're there to like practice yoga. Like
Right.
that's what it is. Like,
Exactly.
and I think that's kind of like the other caveat. I think people are afraid, not afraid, but just a little bit more apprehensive. But to me, like I'll say this, like I haven't done, even doing like the gentle yoga that I was doing like 2 years ago, but like before COVID, like I was never more flexible. Like I was just being able to, like, for example, this is a stupid thing, but like when you're like walking and you're walking by like a wall, or like a bench or whatever, just to be able to put your foot up and like tie your shoe when you do, like, just the with the ease. I mean, I could do it before, but just like the ease that I could lift my leg up higher than I could normally, like, or quicker than
Mhm.
I could normally, even with karate, like the way the height on my kicks and whatnot, where it's like, okay, I can kick, maybe I can kick somebody in the shin or maybe the thigh right now, but I was able to get up to like the rib cage or whatnot, just with that hip flexibility. Just from that, it's like, I've regressed a little bit, and I kind of missed that. So that's the other
Yeah.
reason I want to get back into the yoga world right now. So I'm gonna have to definitely
Yes.
swing by. I have to ask though, before we kind of wrap up, is there a particular practice and or pose that's like your go-to? Like, if I look at like a promotional photo of you, are you going to be
Mhm.
doing some type of uh pose or whatnot?
Yeah, so it's funny. I think we all go through seasons, right? So back when I started yoga, I think it was like 15 years ago, you would find me trying to do handstands or headstands, forearm balances, any type of arm balance, crow or eight-figure pose, anything upside down or balancing on my arms. That's what you find. um, Now that I have kids and corporate life and studio life, I don't have time to get upside down. I just don't. I would practice that just on my own in between. I'd go to the gym, I'd go to a yoga class, and then I'd go home and I'd practice handstands. I don't have time for that. Now I have swim class and soccer and gymnastics and studio stuff and work life. So right now, practice for me is I like a hot class. I love to sweat. I love vinyasa based yoga. So that's when you flow to breath. And I just love chaturangas. That's the whole like push up dog, down dog thing. Um, Sun salutations, all of that. I think it's just anything that I can flow to breath. When I teach, and I teach how I like to take class too. So when I'm looking at everybody, it almost looks like a dance, right? So you take a breath in and you move, and you might reverse a warrior, and then you come back into warrior two, and just watching everybody flow. It's like choreography, right? And I love that. So anything to move and sweat and breathe.
Well, first of all, I understood every single term you just said right there. I just wanted to put that out there. Um, but no, I absolutely agree with that, because it's the same thing. I love how you said like the choreography of it. Like, again, not that I'm trying to make it sound effeminate, because again, it's very stereotypical, and I don't believe in all that. But the fact that you mentioned like dance and choreographed and whatnot, it's the same thing with Kempo karate that I'm doing right now. It's like forms. It's like everybody steps back with your left and does an inward block,
Right.
and it's
Yes.
it's all that stuff where it's like, you do that in unison when you're doing your form. And it's to me, it's just, to use your words, the flow of it, just, it feels kind of cool to see like everybody doing what you're doing, and you're in unison. And
Right.
it's just, I think it's very, very rewarding, because it's almost like, for me, when you talk about dance, I have two left feet, you know what I mean? I can't.
Me too.
So, but I think like to see the culmination of that, like when you get something, even with like a yoga pose, I think anything else, you find it internally rewarding in the fact that, like, yeah, and I'll just use my example in karate. We'll have like new guys start, guys, middle-aged guys in their 60s, and they're, again, same thing, 2 left feet, and they're not getting it. I'll relate my story, like, hey, I was in that position, 4 years ago, whatever. Now I've come so, like, so far that it's I don't even give it a second thought. It's muscle memory at this point.
Right.
And it's just super cool. And just to see it when it clicks for them, and to see them like graduate to like a belt or whatever, I feel that almost like rewarding. So I'm assuming similarly, like when you're instructing and whatnot, to see like your regulars and see how far they've come and whatnot must be
Yeah.
like crazy rewarding for you. So I'm hopefully and hoping that within the next year or so, if we do another podcast soon, you can be like, Jeff, how far I've seen you come from.
Yes.
That's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I'll definitely check that out. And before we wrap up, I want to touch base just on one other quick subject. You mentioned your kids, and I don't want to get too personal with all their stuff, but you mentioned swim class and gymnastics and whatnot.
Mhm.
So I also love the fact that your kids are very athletic as well. I think that's very, very important. It's something I didn't have as a child, where I played t-ball for 1 year, and then, I kind of like didn't want to do it. And my parents are very accommodating, like, yeah, you don't have to do it. You can just sit home and play video games and whatnot. And, later on in life, it's not necessarily working to my benefit. But I just think, getting kids at least active, or at least in that mindset early, I think is important, so long as it's something they enjoy doing. So I guess I'd have to ask, with your kids, how old are they right now, and like what's like is the physical activity something kind of they kind of push to do, or is it something you kind of suggested and they've taken to it, a combination of both? What do you
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
So my oldest is 7. She just turned 7 this summer, and she she's lazy. I always laugh because we've kind of done away with the strollers and stuff, but I'm like, even on this vacation, there's a lot of walking. We walk down into town and we get ice cream, or we walk over to the pier or wherever. And I'm like, if I were to bring a stroller, it'd be for you, not for your 5-year-old brother. Like, she just always wants to be held, or piggyback rides, and she just never wants to walk. But even with that, like, she loves gymnastics, she loves dance. We're kind of at that age where we're trying to pick which one she does, because it's a lot. I think dance is now 2 days a week, gymnastics is 1 day a week, and then swim class. So we have to make tough decisions even at 7. But and working out at home is always something that I've done. So from the very moment she was born and brought home, she's seen me work out or do yoga, or I do a lot of like hit strength training stuff at home. Um, Sometimes she joins in. Most of the time her brother joins, so he loves to join in. So he's 5. He's definitely the more active. I think again, it's like typical second child, like he has so much energy. um, he has recently talked a lot about karate, and he really wants me to sign him up. So I think we're gonna look into adding another activity, but he's really into that right now. He does a little bit of soccer, t-ball this year. What else? Swim class. I think swim classes, that was always something very important to us. So straight from 6 months, I think they've been in swim class since. So that's something I'll keep that for a while. Yeah, but he always joins in my workouts. He loves, he's donkey kicks. I don't know if like when you get on your hands and you kick your feet in the air, he's so good at that. Like, hands down, best donkey kicks.
Well, then
At 5 years
he'd be
old.
great at karate, because there's a lot of kicking in karate. So
Right? Yep.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I'm glad there's like, I love seeing, I mean, I've seen it from afar, through Facebook, through social media, but just be able to talk to you, and just, I'm so happy that you have this like gorgeous, wonderful family. I'm super happy that you're doing something you're passionate about. I love it. And I'm trying to do the workout from home. I'm living in an apartment on a second floor, so to do a lot of like hit stuff is tough. So that's why I've downloaded a couple
Yes.
of different yoga apps. But with things kind of like turning around, I'm definitely going to go check out your studio. But let's plug some stuff right now. Let's plug your studio. Let's plug the website. Let's plug any social media for people to follow if they want to check it out and at least send some inquiries or
Yeah,
whatnot. So I'll let you go ahead and run with that. Whatever you want to plug.
absolutely. So we're mostly on Instagram, but we're on Facebook too, but I think primarily Instagram. Zen Revolution Inc. is our that's kind of our community stuff. So we do outdoor stuff as well. So at Fort Phoenix in Fairhaven, we have outdoor classes 3 times a week, 8:30 in the morning. That's our community stuff. $10. Great, such a great crowd. When you're ready for studio stuff, which I think everybody should check out, we are Divine Yoga in Fall River, right on Route 6. So super easy to find, kind of on the Westport line. So I don't know where your reach is for your group, but if
Oh,
you're local,
well, we're going to link everything in the show notes too. So yeah, there's those two
yeah,
Instagram pages.
yep.
We'll check those out. And then the website.
Yep, the website, divinepoweryoga.com. So you can find all of our schedule stuff there. You can also find our classes on wellness living. If you look up Divine Yoga in Fall River, you'll find our schedule. That's how you would pay for your classes and sign up.
Excellent. Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
Nikki, Nicole, Nick, it's been so fun having you on there. We're going to put everything in the show notes. Guys, girls, everybody. I don't know why I say guys, girls. I just the nomenclature. Everyone listening, if you're looking to if you're in the Fall River, Somerset, even like the southeastern Massachusetts area, and you're looking for a good yoga studio, check out Nikki's website. We're going to put all that in the show notes. Check out Divine Yoga. I'm gonna go there. If you go there, find Nicole, tell her that I sent you, because I think that'll be fun. I want to see if anybody
Yes.
listens to it. But I'm gonna be going out there. I'm gonna be touching base with you offline, and we'll set something up, because your studio is literally right next to my office. So we'll talk about that. And
I'll just sign you up for a class. You'll get the
yeah.
notification and then you have to show
I'll
up.
go into the office there. Yeah, no, well, that's fine. That's, you know what, that's like you said, the hardest part is like walking in through that door the first
Yes.
time, and then
Yes.
that's the thing. But I love the idea of that community. I love the fact that you're doing something you love. I love the fact that you have this wonderful life, and you have like 2 amazing children and a wonderful husband and a great career. And you, like I said, it's not to get too woo woo, but I just see like that light inside you that's just like shining so bright. And I think that's just amazing to see. I'm very proud of you, and I'm happy to see how far you've come from that cute little 16-year-old girl that I used to send out on carriages and felt horrible
Oh my gosh.
for putting you out there
Or
and collecting carriages.
the worst was being assigned to Express.
Express. Everybody hated Express, but yeah, because you got to be like, it's like where people 12 items or less, and everybody's in that line, and it's just crazy. I apologize. Retroactively, I apologize for doing that to you.
Well,
Any
thank
of
you.
those
I
times where
appreciate
you might
that.
have hated me, hopefully we've built a bridge and we've gotten over that, and that over that animosity.
Yes.
But it was so great to have you on the podcast. Everybody, check out her social media. Check out the yoga studio. Mental health, physical health, super important right now. So please check it all out. And Nikki, thank you for being on the show. Ladies
Thanks
and
for
gentlemen,
having
thank
me.
you for listening. You can follow me on my social media at jfree82 on both Twitter and Instagram. I believe my website is jfreethegeek, but I haven't updated that, so don't check that out yet. But yeah, until next time, folks, this has been my aimless conversation with Jeff Cosetta and
Nicole Cleary.
thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.